Hey everybody, I hope you're all doing well today. Welcome back to my channel. Just welcome if you're new. I'm in New York this week, which has been a lot of fun so far. I went to a Knicks game last night, but during the day I've been getting a lot of work done. And I'm headed to a coffee shop right now to try and finish up some edits on my short story, the one I've actually talked about here, doing kind of a complete revising of it. And I do want to talk about that at the end of this video. But just before that, I figured I'd give a little brief summary of what I'm reading, especially since I just finished Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, which has got to be one of the best books I've ever read. But first, before all that, I am starting The Song of Solomon today by Toni Morrison. These two are for my conversation with Ricky Fain, the author of The Devil Three Times. These books were really important to that one. So as I'm finalizing my interview questions, those books are going to be incorporated. I've been able to go to a few bookstores here in New York, which has been a lot of fun, including the Strand, which has a million books. It was the coolest place I've ever been. And I found this, Entrapment and Other Writings by Nelson Algren, which is really cool. I mean, it is basically, it's broken up in sections of his life, but it's writings from 1940 to 1980, something like that, 1930 to 1980. Essays, short stories, criticism, and that's been really great so far. That's part of the research project I'm working on. Obviously, this is Never a Lovely So Real, biography of Nelson Algren by Colin Asher, which is really good so far. As well, I started, this is getting a little, I started The Crying of Lot 49. I am 40 pages in. This is really cool so far. I will say, I like it a lot. Parts of this are really incredible, but parts of it are a little weak in terms of relating with the reader. I feel like parts of this are so tangential and kind of, I don't know, I mean, I feel like when you read someone like DeLillo or Wallace, or there's just a sort of, the connecting is stronger. And I feel like parts of this just go a little off the rails. Again, this is just me focusing on like 2 or 3 paragraphs in here. This is really well done and I like it so far. But I do feel, that way. And then other books from The Strand, I got The Shawl by Cynthia Ozick. Him with His Foot in His Mouth, stories by Saul Bellow. Desperate Characters by Paula Fox. These are from a different bookstore, but Criticism by William Gass and 60 Stories by Donald Barthelme. So these are all books that, besides the criticism, I've been looking for in a lot of places and haven't been able to find. So I was really happy with all of that. But I guess I'll just talk about Their Eyes Were Watching God a little bit before I go out and work on my short story. I mean, this was one of the most, it's just a beautiful, beautiful story, and the writing is beautiful. And the way it switches back, so this is about a woman named Janie, and the whole story is being told to her friend Phoebe. It's like the first and last chapter are discussions between Janie and Phoebe, and then the whole middle is a story being told, like Janie telling her life story to her friend Phoebe, but there are interjections by the writer, which you can tell because the diction is very Southern. It's written very Southern. Like I is always A-H, by is I, for is F-U-H. It's interesting because I don't tend to, I feel like a lot of the times that's used in a way that just dumb a character down, right? Especially when not all the characters speak that way and you have the one Southern guy who's talking like this and it's whatever. But that's definitely not the case here. I mean, she does it very well. It's also not like, it's really heavy, but it's not, difficult to read at all. It almost helps me hear the voices better. It's very strong and yeah, just really well done. And the prose is beautiful. It kind of talks about her growing up with her grandmother, all these forces at play trying to tell her what to do and who to be, including her grandmother, who very fairly just wants her to be married and able to, I think she says, like, sit on the porch in the evenings, because when she was growing up, only the white woman could sit on the porch. And so that's all she wants for her granddaughter, is to be able to sit on the porch. But Janie, does not see marrying this rich man as what she wants. There's other factors at play, what white people want her to do, she has multiple husbands throughout, that's not too much of a spoiler, what each of her husbands want her to do, how they want her to act, and especially the second one, who it kind of starts out in a way that offers her freedom, this Joe, and then by the end it's not so much, and she's kind of left like, what the hell do I do? There's this whole concept of she's lighter. There's another woman who it's just awful. I mean, she's talking about how like the darker African Americans are holding her back, like she needs to emphasize her lighter skin. So everybody is judging her. Everybody is thinking she should do something else. Everybody is pushing her one way or another, and it's not, unsubstantial, right? There's physical abuse, there's life or death interactions, there's wonderful scenes, and it is just such a well put together story. I think the introduction said something like she wrote this in 6 weeks. That's obviously can't be confirmed. If she did, that's got to be the best 6 weeks of writing ever done. I mean, this is incredible. I've had this on my list for a long time. I've owned this for a long time. You can see it's like I was already a little beat up before I even read it, but I love this line on the back. Janie saw her life like a great tree in leaf, with all the things suffered, things enjoyed, things done and undone. Dawn and doom was in the branches. Such a pretty edition. This is the 75th anniversary edition. I met somebody yesterday at a coffee shop who was reading the same edition, and they came up to me like, "Are you reading Their Eyes Watching God?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, I think he described it as, I asked him what he thought. He's like, a chef's kiss. It's so well done. This is, what's even more interesting about this is this was written in the 30s maybe, and kind of forgotten until Alice Walker, who's on the front, "There's no book more important to me than this one," she says, kind of single-handedly took this book and put it at the forefront of American literature, made it, like, put it in the canon like herself, which is pretty incredible. That's not something that's done very often. And now, I mean, I think it's read in a lot of classes, not as much as it should be. This is not a book that I had really heard of in high school or even before getting to college, but I do know some high schools read it. This is something I would really encourage you to read. Their Eyes Are Watching God. It is not a religious book in any way. Religion is incorporated in, there's a situation where she's forced to look to God, watch God. That's not something that she is emphasizing in her life. It is merely a way because, like, nothing else is there for her, right? Her husbands, white people, other African Americans, even her kind, sweet grandmother who raised her and really did want the best for her. She's forced to look to God in a lot of situations where she's kind of left alone. And this is really just a tale of somebody who is so fiercely independent, someone who refused to be shackled down in any way by anything. My favorite parts of this are where she's talking to Phoebe and saying things about what the people in the town are saying, because Lord knows everybody likes to gossip about her. And gossip about everybody, but especially her. It feels very applicable to today and the internet. Is this Phoebe? Yeah. If you pass some people and don't speak to suit them, they got to go way back in your life and see what you ever done. They know more about you than you do yourself. An envious heart makes a treacherous ear. They done heard about you just what they hope done happened. And then Phoebe says of her husband, Sam, yeah, Sam says, most of them goes to church, so they'll be sure to rise in judgment. That's the day that every secret is supposed to be made known. They want to be here, and they want to be there and hear it all. He says he aims to be there himself so he can find out who stole his corncob pipe. The dialogue is so strong here. I've underlined so much of this book that it's hard to choose what to read, but it's just the kind of book where every sentence is so well thought out. Every detail is just perfect. In the few days to live before she went to Logan Killick's and his often mentioned 60 acres, Janie asked inside of herself and out, that's the guy that she's being forced to marry. His often mentioned 60 acres, that's all that really matters. She hated the old woman who had twisted her so in the name of love. Most humans didn't love one another nohow, and this mislove was so strong that even common blood couldn't overcome it all the time. She had found a jewel down inside herself, and she had wanted to walk where people could see her and gleam it around, but she had been set in the marketplace to sell. Been set for stillbait. Well, I gotta go get some work done, but I would highly recommend this book. Could not recommend it anymore. If you've read it, let me know what you think. And I'll be back either this afternoon or tomorrow morning to talk about the short story I'm working on. I'm really excited about that. This is my first time really getting into the nitty-gritty of revising something that I really, truly care about. I'm not sure how I'm gonna talk about it exactly, but I will kind of go over the revision process and maybe include some clips from New York. I haven't really been filming yet. except for the real snowy day on Monday. But yeah, thanks for watching so far. I'll be back in a minute. Bury me where the wind don't blow, where the dust won't cover me, all grass grows. Bury me where I fall, Tokyo to Tennessee, I love them all.
Thank you for joining us today at the rink at Rockefeller Center.
See the windmills turn up 55. Still got so much to love. Still feel alive. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is about a week later than I planned on filming the second half of this video. I think in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna knock all these revisions out in, you know, a day or two. Not that I hadn't been revising before, but you know what I mean, like finish the whole thing. And that's just not what happened. And that's obviously both just unrealistic in general, but kind of unfair to me because I felt like there were things that I had to like set. So with this story that I'm working on, which I've read the intro to, which I loved, like that was what made me want to take this real far and just continue to come back and keep working on it, which is the cars, kind of listing out the cars that a family owned and how that represented like portions of their life, specifically it's from a girl's perspective and her father, who is an alcoholic. And then the story kind of goes throughout, which I haven't really talked much about what happens in it. But the final scene is that girl talking to her father in his truck, and he's got a rifle. And somebody's coming over who has been messing with one of his younger daughters. So I really love the final scene, especially the dialogue. And I've kind of gone from making the dad this bad guy, which he still is throughout the story, but kind of making it so that he has, you know, you start to feel, the girl starts to understand how he's feeling, and the fact that maybe he doesn't understand how everybody else is feeling is more what makes him bad than his actions throughout, if that makes any sense. I've really got this scene that I've been messing with the dialogue. Dialogue has never been easy for me to revise, but this one felt so good. It was a lot of fun being like, okay, this is what this person's gonna say, this is what that. In the beginning, I kind of have setting concrete. I worked to make it more like transitional, so you kind of get that part that I like, and then you go into the story. I had way more digression, and I think I was just trying to include too much for a short story, and it didn't make sense. So everything's going well on those parts. I think portions of it are finalized, but the middle I just haven't been invested in, and part of that is, I think there's parts where it sounds kind of dumb, but I feel like I need to make the mom a worse person for me to be more invested in it, if that makes any sense. Like I like having that thing where there's somebody that somebody's blaming, or just something, there's motives that have to be twisted around. And when I have this part in the middle where the girl is recalling her mother, kind of taking the kids all out to eat and basically being like, I don't know what to do anymore because of how the dad has been acting and treating them and the terrible things he's done. There needs to be something where it's like you both recognize that she's in this awful situation, but also she's not handling it well. So it's just, I don't know. Everything needs to be bad. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm going to continue working on that. One of my plans for this year, just to kind of change things up, is to hold myself accountable for writing, not only finishing stories, but writing portions of the novel I'm working on, which is going really well, actually. The past 2 or 3 days, I've been making some good progress with that. And just like essays I've been writing in my free time is, I want to like create a Substack and post things weekly or every other week, whatever the case may be, and put stories in there and different things that maybe I'm not ready to, you know, try and publish, or I don't think are worthy of being published or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. So I think that'll be a fun thing to try and do. But anyway, that's just a little debrief on the stuff I've been working with. I'm making a lot of progress on my research project too. I just interviewed Ricky Fain. Here's the manuscript, which I've read twice, and here's the actual book, which comes out May 13th, 2025, so very soon. I would highly encourage you guys to watch the video. It is way too long. I'm editing it. I'm trying to scrunch it down, but we talked for a while. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's kind of the kinds of things that we talk about when we meet on a regular basis. And obviously me asking questions about the book, things that I'm truly, truly interested in. And it's kind of discussion, kind of interview, but it was a lot of fun to film, and I hope you guys will check that out and check out the book as well, because it's really, really, really good. And I'm not proud of him like I had any involvement in this, but I'm proud to know somebody who, you know, wrote something like this. It's just, it blows me away. Like, seriously, it's really cool. But for that interview, I did read, I guess, more Edward P. Jones short stories, because there's one in here called "The Devil Swims Across the Anacostia River." The Devil Swims Across the Anacostia River, which kind of inspired portions of that. This is something I'll talk about later because Jones is part of my research project, and I'm going to be reading a ton of his stuff. Hopefully going to DC as well as part of that project, but we'll see. I'm still in the process of applying and things like that. But let me talk about the Song of Solomon, because I mentioned Their Eyes Were Watching God as one of the best books I've ever read. And this is even better. I mean, in terms of Toni Morrison, I read stuff of hers like in 8th grade, which was too early as part of class. I don't even recall which book it was. I remember we read a novel of hers, and I don't remember anything about it. And so I didn't appreciate it, you know, whatever. I read Paradise in college, which is largely seen as not her least popular, but kind of like most difficult to read, maybe. There was a lot of controversy regarding the Oprah Book Club and people being like, I just can't read this book. But I liked Paradise a lot, and I think that it was a challenging book, but it was one I really enjoyed writing about and like really digging into, and it's one that I will definitely reread. Everything I've read of her so far seems like it would just be so rewarding to reread it, including this. I'm not saying you have to reread this to like it. I loved it. I love this book. Something interesting about Their Eyes Were Watching God in this book is I had people coming up to me, somebody I sat next to on the plane, people in coffee shops. It feels like this is like a very, I don't know, both of those books, I don't usually have people coming up and being like, what are you reading, you know? People recognize these books, and people love them, and love them enough to want to talk to somebody else who's reading them, so I think that's really cool. The amount of stuff I highlighted in here, I guess I'll talk about. So it's not a plotless book. It has very much a plot and a lot of really interesting and intriguing events. But what it kind of starts out as, and I will say, I'm sure you can find this online. There's a 3-page forward in here, a 4-page forward in here, where she is basically breaking down like the first sentence of this book, and it's one extraordinary to me because this is somebody who I've watched like documentaries on her and different things and read different, you know, commentary. I mean, she had, I don't know when this one was written. This was written right after her father died, so it's possible she had more time by this point. But the stuff she was writing, I mean, getting up at like 3, 4 a.m. before she had to get her kids up and you know, raise them, and and she's getting up early and writing books like these where there's such detail. I mean, every word choice she's explaining, right? I mean, it's so thought out. Every word in here feels like it's in the right place. It is so careful and so alive. And this is the kind of book that makes you just appreciate what like words can make you feel. Because I've read a lot of good books, and all those books make you feel something or you appreciate the language, but this is like it. This is what a book's supposed to do. It's about a boy who's nicknamed Milkman. That's one of the funny stories in there. And his father. And they are wealthier African Americans in Michigan. His father owns many, many properties and cares only about those properties. There are parts of this novel where, you know, he goes somewhere where a guy is basically threatening to kill himself in one of his properties, in one of the apartments. And he's like, pay me my rent right now. Like, he needs the rent now before the guy can do whatever he has to do, and then he'll walk away and leave him alone. So there's all this commotion in the street, and he's just like, you know, give me the money, and then you can whatever. So And it's a bit of a strange town. The boy's, Milkman's mother's father was the first African-American doctor. And so she does this whole thing with the streets. This was called Doctor Street because the black doctor lived on this street, so they called it Doctor Street. And then once he died, they called it not Doctor Street. And how this appears in the actual census, it doesn't, but people will like postcard things or like address envelopes there. Yeah, so it's really, really cool. But the cool part about this, I want to read this first sentence. The North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance agent promised to fly from Mercy to the other side of Lake Superior at 3 o'clock. 2 days before the event was to take place, he tacked a note on the door of his little yellow house. At 3 p.m. on Wednesday the 18th of February 1931, I will take off from Mercy and fly away on my own wings. Please forgive me. I loved you all. Signed, Robert Smith, insurance agent. And so there's a whole crowd, and they're watching him jump off this building. I mean, he is killing himself, but there's this playing with these myths, especially similar to ones that Ricky toys with in The Devil Three Times. This one being that certain folks' ancestors, when they were brought to America and were enslaved, actually flew away. People will insist, my great-great-grandfather, he flew away. He was one of the, winged Africans who flew back to Africa and whatever. So it's an interesting thing because she plays with that, and it comes around to the end of the book because the end of the book has to do with flying. And so Milkman is born, the first African-American boy to be born in this hospital where they wouldn't let any African-Americans into until this guy killed himself. So Robert Smith, insurance agent, jumps off this building, and Milkman's mother is pregnant at the time, and she begins to give birth after this event has happened, and he's the first child admitted because of either the commotion or because this event. So it's quite interesting the way that everything plays off of each other. And I will say, the entire novel, it feels like every character is doing something so insanely wrong. Not every, but there's no character that is perfect all the way through. It's really about revealing what's behind these emotions. And Morrison chooses exactly when to let you see what's happening or explain, he realized this about this person who was acting this way out of that, right? So everything is chosen perfectly. There's a couple really cool characters in here. I love Guitar, great name, Guitar and Milkman. I love Pilot. There's this play with blind tradition and naming people from the Bible. And Pilot, who is a sibling to Milkman's father. Macon Dead is Milkman's father, who's also named Macon Dead. This name was given to them by a white man who was recording names officially, but and so part of the novel is Milkman trying to find out who his ancestors are, what their real names were. But Pilot and Macon Dead are siblings, and there's a really interesting dynamic there. Their father just kind of pointed at a name in the Bible he couldn't read, and it was Pilate, the one who killed Jesus. And so it's a funny name to choose from the Bible, but he couldn't read it. He just picked it out and he was like, no, we're going with that. Macon Dead, the landowner, is not ever really that great or redeemed. There are parts where he has interesting discussions with his son and things like that. And so you kind of just, it's never, you can't listen to just one side. The mother, who seems kind of the strangest at points, is also, you really see where she's coming from with some of this stuff. So I would just say, I really don't want to spoil anything that happens. It is one of those books where it's rooted in real life, but again, the names are Pilot and Milkman and Guitar, and there's chases after gold, and there's flying, and so I don't like I don't like mystical books like science fiction or I don't really know genre fiction in general. I mean, this is really well done, and it's everything you could want from a book, and it's all done perfectly. I can't recommend this anymore. I mean, these might be I feel I may have already read like the 2 best books I'm gonna read in 2025. So it's just like, you know, whatever, so be it. I hope not, but I mean, I don't have anything more to say. I would recommend Song of Solomon. I would recommend Their Eyes Were Watching God. I'm rambling at this point. It is snowing like crazy. I just had my first day of classes. The interview with Ricky Fain is going to come out very soon. Thank you all so much for watching this video. It seems like it went a little longer than I intended, but if you made it to the end, thank you so much. I will be back very soon with the interview and other updates on what I'm reading. I don't think I'm going to do like everything I read in a semester video, but I will include the stuff I'm going to be reading. A few novels, a lot of stuff like older literature, because I'm taking like a required pre-19th century lit class for my major, which I'm not super looking forward to, but it is what it is, and we'll see how I like it. But again, thanks so much for watching. Hope everybody's having a great day, night, whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you very soon.